I'm finally back from Heroes Con, and it's time for me to tell you all about it. Welcome back to Comics Are Dope. I'm BJ Kicks, and yes, last weekend, June 12th, 13th, 14th, I was in Charlotte, North Carolina at Heroes Con. This was my 5th year in attendance at Heroes Con, and I gotta say, it was the best yet. So I'm going to tell you all about it. I'm going to recap my experience, show you a lot of amazing footage from the convention floor, and just out of frame, I got all the books that I bought, was gifted, got signed. So I'm going to show you all that by the end of this video as well. So stay tuned. By the way, this video is powered by GlobalComix. We will talk more about them later. But let's go ahead and dive in. And like I said, this year's Heroes Con was probably my favorite yet, but it almost didn't happen. So this was the first year I was going to do all 3 days since 2022. And that's always a bit of a heavy lift. I got small kids, two of them under 5 years old. And so leaving the house for 3 days just kind of feels like leaving my wife to deal with a war. It's crazy. And I always feel a little bit guilty leaving my wife in a war zone while I go to talk about comic books. But this year we worked it out all 3 days at Heroes Con. But it almost didn't happen because there was just calamity after calamity. I was dealing with some car trouble with the vehicle that I was going to leave for my wife to drive while I took our minivan to Charlotte. And then I woke up on Friday, the day I'm supposed to leave. I'm supposed to leave at like 7 a.m. to get to the convention in time to pick up my badges and stuff. Wake up and there's no AC in the house. And I'm like, it's 100 degrees outside all weekend. No way I'm leaving my house with not working AC. So got that handled, got everything sorted. But by the time I did, it was already like after 12 noon. And I was kind of flustered. I ended up just like, there was stuff that I wanted to grab to get signed. And that's my fault because I should have prepared all that stuff the night before. But I was scrambling the day of. I ended up just kind of throwing a bunch of stuff in a short box, throwing that short box in the van, and getting on the road. By the time I got to Heroes Con, it was 4 p.m. It was 4 p.m. And so I go in to pick up my press badge, which is looked like this year. So I go in to pick up my press badge. I got to meet Phil. Shout out to Phil Southern, who's one of the volunteers helping to bring all this together, or convention workers. But got to meet Phil and got my press badge. Turns out they moved the press badge location. So I end up going to a different spot. And the first person I see is Sanford Green. He just happens to be walking past. And so we exchange our pleasantries, and it's finally time to go down to the convention floor. And man, like I said, I almost didn't make it. But one of the highlights of Heroes Con for me every year is that I spend it with my man, Chris Balga, my collecting partner. Funny enough, Louise Simonson gave us that name my very first Heroes Con back in 2022. And Chris had been texting me updates about how the day had been going. And so he told me he was waiting in line for Walt and Weezy Simons. And so I was like, let me go make a beeline over there, see how far he is in the line. So I go to surprise him by filming him in the line. Turns out, as I arrive, he is right up front, talking to Walt Simons and talking to Weezy. And it turns out he was telling Weezy, recounting to Weezy the story of how she gave us the collecting partner title. And I think it's funny that I got all that on camera. Crazy stuff. So that's our first interaction, is like reuniting, reconnecting with Walter and Louise Simonson. And that was great. She's like, oh, get in this picture. You should get in it. And so we got another picture, 4 years, 5 years in the making. So that was cool. But after, connecting with Chris, we had one mission for Friday. The way I like to break up Heroes Con, because there's all sorts of things you can do. There are the autographs and photo ops that you can get by waiting in line for creators at their tables. There, of course, is the panels. And then there's just all the sort of ancillary activities. You know, there might be a cosplay contest. There's the shopping and all that. So there's a lot of things that you can spend your time doing at Heroes. So for me, I like to break those up into different days. Fridays are for signatures. Saturdays are for like meeting and networking and stuff. And maybe panels, depending, especially if I'm giving a panel. And then Sunday is supposed to be like the kind of chill day, getting ready to make the drive back. But my Friday was cut short. I didn't get there till 4 o'clock. But Chris had gotten us VIP tickets to wait to get signatures from Scott Snyder. And this was a big deal. Scott Snyder had not been to Heroes since before the pandemic. So I had never met him, never seen him in person. So it was very cool to get in line, meet Scott Snyder. And, you know, we had exchanged some pleasantries online before, but he didn't recognize me in the moment. But I actually brought my Court of Owls to get signed. And this was I decided to go with my fan home Court of Owls because that's the one that's probably never going to leave the collection. And I didn't want to carry a huge omnibus on the road like I did in years past. So he signed it. He did a little sketch in it. And we reconnected later on. He's like, oh, snap. I didn't realize that was you. But we'll talk about that later. But we got the VIP Scott Snyder tickets. And those ended up being a hot commodity. I'm glad we did it on Friday because the VIP opening Saturday, like basically you had to get a ticket. The tickets were free, but they started handing out tickets early. So unless you bought a VIP ticket to Heroes and got on the show floor an hour early, chances are you never got to meet Scott Snyder at his table. And I get their reasons for doing that. I don't know how you would rectify that in the future, to be honest with you. It's just, it was a hot commodity ticket, high ticket item, and a lot of people were clamoring. Because a lot of people were clamoring, there's actually a guy that got in line with Chris and I, and he was like, hey, I'll pay for you guys' signatures because they were 20 a pop if you guys let me get in on your ticket. So that worked for us. So we kind of were able to work it out where we got our, you know, fanboy signatures for free. And the guy who wanted to, you know, flip comics for his retail store, he got to do that too. So it all worked out. But anyway, got Scott Snyder's signature on my Court of Owls, and that was pretty much the only big to-do list item for Friday while I was waiting for Collections in Black. So ended up making rounds, seeing a lot of, you know, friends, family, of course. Shout out to cousin Steph. Two-time Eisner nominee.
Hey, I was just talking about you.
Why? Auntie and Dennis, we went and hung out there. And of course, I hung out at the Fourth Wall Comics table, Bequest Studios, I should say. My man, Danny Quick. Morgan was there, Ro Lamb, as was Wally McNair. Those are the homies. That's the family. So I was excited to see them. Damian Becton, a lot of people that I got to see on Friday. But the reason I decided to come on Friday, because I almost did not get in the car after all the HVAC fiasco. But I had to make it to Charlotte because after the after party, sort of Heroes after party, was at 9189 Gallery for Collections in Black. My man DJ Big Phil has actually had this exhibit running all month long, the entire month of June. But the VIP opening was that Friday night, June 12th. And listen, man, that was the highlight of my Heroes experience. First of all, this art gallery is huge. It's on this huge performing arts complex owned by Miss Joanne. And it was just, I can't really describe, I can't put into words really how awesome it felt to see all of this like Black art, not even just the comic book art, but as you arrive on the complex, you're seeing this massive building in the middle of downtown Charlotte, and everywhere you look, there's photography exhibits. And we only explored the first floor of the building. Like there's a theater in there, there's an event space, a venue, there's an art gallery, and there are mysterious things on the second and third floors that I can't even speak to because I didn't get a full tour of the building. But just like all of that excellence in one spot is a lot to take in and was really cool to see. But we were there for the Collections in Black event. They had like a little fashion show, like runway show. So shout out to them. Can't remember the name of their clothing line, but it's on the screen. But they had that. They had music playing. There was a couple of DJs and producers that were playing beats the whole night. Shout out to Shane, who had a lot of his like sort of graffiti pieces there in the show as well. So it was just a really cool celebration of Black art. And I was honored to be one of the VIP guests. They gave me a flyer and everything. But Stephanie Williams, Greg Burnham, Greg Elise, shout out to Marquise from DC, who was in the building. The Black Comic Lords were in the building. Six Slayers were in the building. Like there was just, it was insane. I think the highlight of that night for me at first was my conversation with Keith Williams, who you guys know I've had Christopher Priest on the podcast several times, and I know that you know Christopher Priest was the first Black editor at Marvel and then also at DC. What I did not know was that the first thing he did after being promoted to full editor at Marvel was to call Keith Williams and be like, "Hey, you want to be my assistant?" And so Keith kind of handled the art while Priest handled the writers, and they were the first Black editorial team at Marvel in the Spider-Man office. That is insane to be leading the Spider-Man office in the 80s as two Black men. That's crazy. That is wild. And it's a fact that I feel like people don't know. I didn't know. And I'm a Black history nerd. So anyway, getting to talk to Keith Williams about his time at Marvel, being Priest's assistant, the way they used to go out on outings with the Marvel company card and all these things that were just really cool. I got to get him on the show because that was an amazing conversation. And you guys deserve to hear more about Keith's story. So that was a highlight. Then, the vibes are going well. A bunch of people left because it seemed like things were winding down. Phil decides to show the Collections in Black movie, which was another dope experience. And I got to see most of the film. I didn't get to watch all of it because Sanford Green comes in the middle of the film. And not only is it Sanford Green who walks into the gallery, but he brings the entire Absolute writing team, or at least everybody that was there at Heroes. So Scott Snyder, Pornsack, Che Grayson, and Hayden Sherman all walk into this gallery and they're just taking it in. They're just looking at the art and enjoying the exhibit, but they're stopping to talk and have conversations with people. So the one regret I had from my Scott Snyder interaction Friday was that I didn't take a picture, but got to take a picture at Collections in Black and we got to have a little conversation, and that was really cool. And that, I don't know, that's probably 1A, 1B highlights for me besides the Keith Williams conversation. But overall, the exhibit, man, shout out to DJ Big Phil, because I have been seeing Collections in Black from afar. I've been seeing the sort of highlights and recap videos that get posted when it goes to different cities. There is nothing like experiencing it for yourself. I could probably do a whole separate video about that. God knows I shot enough footage at Collections in Black for a whole separate video. So I'll leave it there. But man, if you ever get a chance to go, you got to go see Collections in Black when it hits your city. At the time of this recording, there's still like a few days left if you want to go see it in Charlotte at the 918-9 gallery. That's a whole experience. You need it for sure. So anyway, that was how Friday went. By the way, Friday was also Paul from Black Comic Lord's birthday. So we had a cake. We celebrated. Randy brought in food. We had cheesesteaks. It was a vibe. It was a good time. So that was a late night. And by the way, I am not used to late nights. My bedtime is like 9 p.m., dog. I got little kids. They're up first thing in the morning. I'm never up that late at night. But hey, we made it happen. But I had to get some rest because I knew Saturday was going to be a full day. I'm going to be filming all day Saturday at the convention, meeting a bunch of creators. I met a ton of you who watch and support the channel. I got to meet up with my homies from the Comics Pals. Sean, Tyler, and Marco made the trip from New York to Charlotte and thoroughly enjoyed themselves. So we got to hang out. I feel like I was probably like a phantom the entire Heroes because I was really trying to walk the floor of the convention to make sure I got enough footage for this recap. So everybody that I saw for like 2, 3, 4 minutes at a time. And that's kind of would string together appearances to make it a full day. But I got to see them. And Saturday was really about me going and visiting with creators for the most part. So I got some stuff that I had dropped off with Dennis Cowan that he held hostage the entire weekend. I had some stuff that I wanted to get signed, well, by a lot of people. We'll talk about that when it's time. But the biggest thing that I had to do was the panel at 3:30, and just before the panel, I went and got spent some time with Sanford Green, got a couple signatures, and on my way leaving Sanford's table, on the way to the panel, I run into Daniel Warren Johnson, and these, like, all of my favorite interactions were not on video because I just happened to be walking around and someone would stop me, and that's how it was. I'm walking around and Daniel's like, "Oh, hey, what's up, dude?" And so we stop, we chat a little bit, we nerd out about camera gear because I brought a new rig this year, and so we talked about that, talked about golf a little bit. And I was like, "Oh, wait, I got to go to this panel." He's like, "Yeah, I got to get back to my table." And that was my entire exchange with Daniel Warren Johnson this year. It's always great to see that dude. But anyway, I run up to the panel rooms because we have our panel at 3:30. It's myself, Dr. Ebony Toussaint, Tashi J from Melanin Minds, and then it's all moderated by Theo from the Comic Book Bin podcast. And it was a podcast or a panel about being people of color in the podcasting space, how this medium kind of helps us create and foster community, and just what it all means to each of us. I actually uploaded that full panel to the channel a couple days ago, so check that out if you haven't already. It was a great conversation. And man, let me say, between that panel and a lot of my interactions on the floor, this Heroes Con was like a really healing experience. There had been some drama in the weeks leading up to Heroes, and I remember I told somebody that, like, "Yo, I'm ready to get off the internet and just meet some real people in real life," and that's exactly how Heroes went. So shout out to all of you who came up to me, everybody who came to the panel, but literally any of you who stopped me. I'm talking viewers, supporters, creators, even other YouTubers and podcasters. There were several people that stopped me at different points throughout the weekend to just express their support for the channel and appreciation for the work. And that was helpful more than you know. But this panel was also helpful for the same reason, to kind of remind me and us of why we do this, and maybe some strategies and tactics that we can use to better serve the medium and the audience and the community in the future. So that was a great conversation. A few more interactions that I just enjoyed. Like I said, I met Sanford Green. Well, I didn't meet Sanford Green. We've met before. But hanging out with Sanford Green for a second, I stopped by Daryl Banks' table. Daryl Banks, creator of Kyle Rayner, or co-creator, I don't know. But Daryl Banks, famed Green Lantern artist, among others, just a legendary figure. And we sat and talked about action figures and Milestone and Dwayne McDuffie. And, but it was just cool to have a conversation. Like, I knew that he was a supporter of the channel. I've seen him in the comment sections, but for us to have that interaction, I don't know, like, it is never not mind blowing to me when someone that you admire also respects you in return and, like, knows you for the work that you do. Because to me, I'm a fan and these people are superstars. And to them, they're like, "Hey, that's the guy I throw on YouTube when I'm drawing or writing or whatever." And it's like, that's crazy that there is a mutual respect there. So I don't know. I don't really have words for all that. But I did get to spend a lot of time just catching up with different creative friends, some that I had met before, some that I had not. But I had to rush off the floor. Out to dinner with my man Trevor from Pocket Watch Press, and Ryan Best, and Richard Fairgray, and Anthony Stokes, and a couple people that I was meeting for the first time at that dinner. We went to this Asian spot. It was a pretty good dinner. But I knew I was going to have to rush through that dinner because there's no way I was missing Game 5 of the NBA Finals. Ended up going back to 9/18/9, where Black Comic Lords basically hosted a watch party for the game. We watched the Knicks win in 5 in dramatic fashion, as always. I shed a couple tears. My man Chocolate almost blew a blood vessel in his brain, but it worked out. We won. The Knicks are champions after 53 years, and that's insane. I don't want to spend all the time on the Knicks, but the Knicks did win in five, and that means there were two late nights in a row for me at this convention. By the time Sunday hit, I was a zombie, but I had to be up early. I had breakfast. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that. I had breakfast with someone in the industry who we got some things brewing. You will hear me talk about this person. But, whatever. I had breakfast with Adam Freeman. He was a great host. We met at this diner. We had breakfast to talk about some things. So that would be cool. We'll see the results of that at some point in the future. But meeting for breakfast, I did not bring my camera with me. And of course, we get caught up in conversation and realize we are late for this Absolute Universe panel. So now we jet over to the convention center, into the panel room, into the sort of press section of the panel with no camera. And I should have recorded video. Instead, I recorded a voice note that came out horrible. But the Absolute Universe panel, I mean, it's Scott Snyder, Hayden Sherman, Che Grayson. Wait, Pornsack wasn't on the panel. I don't think Pornsack was on the panel, but it was moderated by Marie Javins. I had never seen Marie Javins before. I did not know Marie Javins was at the convention until I saw her moderating this panel. But that was an experience to be second row at that panel. And, you know, they debuted or unveiled the covers for Absolute Wonder Woman issue 24, or excuse me. Yeah, I think it was 24 of Wonder Woman and 24 of Absolute Batman. I might be getting that mixed up. But the point is, we saw the reveal of Absolute the Bat. Nick Dragata was the other person on that panel. I was like, there was 4 people, but Pornsack was not one of them. Nick Dragata came with Scott Snyder for that panel. We got some exclusive cover reveals that you've since seen. Those were online, same day. But just hearing all of these writers and artists talk about their stories, their approach to creativity. Che Grayson made everybody cry, talking about how comics have never had a ceiling for them to break through, like that they could fully realize themselves in comics in a way that they couldn't in filmmaking and other medium that they had been a part of. So that was really cool. And yeah, definitely highlight of that panel. And then another highlight is that Scott is just talking about how the community has kind of rallied around the Absolute line and other just new things in comics. And he's talking about how, you know, he's seeing other people doing great work, even it's beyond just the writers and artists, but the fans are showing up and like journalism is showing up. And he points out the comic book couples counseling team, Brad and Lisa, and myself, probably because we were sitting right there and we were sitting next to each other, but still, for Scott Snyder to shout you out during a panel is insane. He also shouted out Big Phil and the Collections in Black exhibit. I thought that was really cool too. But just another part of like how this all just kind of feels insane to me. That happened. This video is way too long. I don't want to like just talk about everything. But after the Absolute panel, I raced. I wanted to catch Stephanie Williams. She had a panel that she moderated. She basically was a moderator and served on the panel, but it was about how to write comics. And it's Louise Simonson and Annie Nocenti talking about their experiences as writers in 80s and 90s Marvel and DC. And that was such a wealth of knowledge. And to see Stephanie ask questions that clearly she's asking the questions because she wants the answers, not because they're like just great questions for the audience. That was a really entertaining panel. I ended up having to leave like midway through it because I just realized how much I had to get done on Sunday. By Sunday at the convention is when my inbox is going off like, hey, I haven't seen you. Where are you at? Can you stop by my table? And so on. So I had to meet with Fred Van Lente. I need to put that video out about his newest project that's coming out. Gavin Guidry need to spend some time with. Raymar Brunson, I have been kind of like, hey, well, let's connect all weekend. Then I realized this is the last day. If we don't connect now, we're not going to connect. So a bunch of people that I had to like kind of race, and meat. Shout out to Dominic Glover, by the way, the art of Dominic Glover on Instagram. I've been following that dude forever. I just happened to be walking by and he stopped me like, hey, don't you have a YouTube channel? And I was like, yeah. And so he showed me his book. We'll get into all that in the haul. As a matter of fact, let's just go ahead and skip to the haul. And this is where I have to remind you that this video is sponsored by GlobalComix. They were kind enough to sponsor this convention experience for me. And they are a great place to go and look for comics online. The reason I wanted to partner with GlobalComix for this video specifically is that the great thing about Heroes Con is not just that you get to meet your heroes in mainstream comics, but it's also that you get to check out works from up and coming creators. So I've got this whole stack right here of indie comics that you probably would not find anywhere else. But those indie comics, in a lot of cases, exist on GlobalComix. GlobalComix doesn't just have Dark Horse, Marvel, Image, DC, but they've also got all sorts of creators. If you are an independent creator and you're looking to get your work out there online, then you should put your works on GlobalComix, just like some of these fine people have. If you, by the way, want a subscription to GlobalComix, you can buy stuff a la carte there, or you can get their gold pass. And I'll leave a link in the description down below where you can use my coupon code and you can get your gold pass subscription on an annual basis for a price that ends up being less than $5 a month. That's crazy work. Nobody else is doing that. So it's time for me to just show you some of the books that I picked up. And we'll start with the indies. I got this set of sort of ash cans from my man Omari Malik of Blacktooth Publishing. So we've got Adastra, we've got Snakebite, and we've got Dogpile. Dogpile is my favorite of the three, but these are all really dope. I've had Omari on the show before, so check out our podcast interview if you want to learn more about those books. Speaking of Raymar Brunson, I've got his newest. This is called Gatling Boy, and it's Raymar Brunson with story and art by Raymar Brunson. This and art assistance by Kevin Anthony Catalan. It's like if Astro Boy was American, is the way I understand the pitch. But like, just look at this art. There's not a lot of people that can get me to pay attention to black and white comic art. But man, Raymar is one of them. He also has a book he does called Ghost Man, and that is also amazing. But man, look at this cover by Catalan. That's dope. Anyway, shout out my man Damian Becton. Ruth Avenue Raiders is actually live on Kickstarter right now. You can pre-order it. But this is a little ash can preview of Ruth Avenue Raiders versus the robots of Sector 7. And if you are a fan of like 90s animated TV shows, 90s, 2000s, Recess, Rocket Power, that's the book you need. Again, I talked about Dominic Glover. I just got his newest. I didn't even know he made comics. I knew he did like comic art and like anime art and he sells prints and stuff. But now he's got a book called Monkey with a Katana, The Rise of the Monkey Samurai. And that's really dope. So I got issue 1 and 2 of that series. Oh man. So this is a play on words by Shane Pilster. Shane was the dope graffiti artist that did a lot of work on Collections in Black. And this is a little zine showing his graffiti throw-ups and murals around the city. And some of this is just like graffiti work that he does just on paper. So this was really cool. So shout out to Shane Pilster. He's on Instagram at Paint for Hire. All right. Oh man, shout out to Shane Berryhill. Shane Berryhill stopped me as I was walking past his table. He was like, yo, I love your channel and I want you to show your books or my books to your audience. So we've got Comic Books Kill by Shane Berryhill and the artist Hoyt Silva. Art by Hoyt Silva, story by Shane Berryhill. A little noir detective story like that. And then we've got Deathslinger Gunslinging cyborg of mass destruction is what this is about. And oh, this is cool. This is cool. This video is going to be like 18 minutes too long, but it's all good. Kurt's comic review. Shout out to Kurt Williams. I saw him in line for the Simonsons. He's like, hey, I got a book. Can you read it? And I'm like, yes, I will absolutely read this. Shout out to Kurt's comic review. You guys might have seen him in the comments of this channel before, but I'm excited about this Boys Club. Oh man, so this is a book. Shout out to Matt Mozingo. He gave me this at the Collections in Black show. He also did a really dope static painting that he gifted to Big Phil. And I've never wanted to be Big Phil as much as I did in that moment. But anyway, we got the Oracles, Visions of Destiny. Welcome to Novo Nubia. I believe this is there's the Ashcan version. And then we've got another variant with the Do the Right Thing poster homage. Listen, The Weight of My Heart is absolutely going to be a Spike Lee homage. All right. Shout out to my man Greg Elise. I bought the last special edition trade paperback of Hammer, John Henry versus the Robot Apocalypse. This is the special edition with a bunch of scripts and behind the scenes stuff in the back matter. Apparently, people were mad that I bought the last one and they couldn't get one. But you should have went and brought your money to my homie first. All right. Oh man, shout out to Carlton Hargrove and 20th Place Media. They're the same team behind Nia Griggs, but this is called Quantum Moses. And this young lady that looks like Tracy Ellis Ross is dope. So that's that. I'll show you some of this artwork. This is the 0 issue. I could probably do a whole separate video about all this stuff. Oh, this is from Anthony Stokes. I got It's Fun to Kill People. My joke with Stokes is that Stokes is often making not safe for work comics. So even though I know he's a dope creator, I don't really get to show him on the channel very often. And he's like, yo, I finally got an all ages book for you to review. And that was this one. It's called Silent Count. It's a sports comic, a football comic. And then he gave me It's Fun to Kill People as well. Oh yeah, from Fred Van Lente, this was Hello Darkness 22, which just came out this week. This is a variant cover. It has a preview of his latest work in it. And that preview is called, or that latest work is called Vampirates. So we'll talk about that soon. What is this? Oh, shout out to my man from Zaid Comics. It's the Diaz brothers. And I do not remember which Diaz brother I spoke with. But he gave me The Man with No Strings, a weird Western fantasy. I got issue 0 and issue 1. And then he also gave me this Lost Pages, a sort of graphic novel featuring a bunch of their short comics, all compiled together, all in black and white. Little Tonkabon size volume. I thought that was cool. And finally, the last indie book that I purchased this weekend was by Brandon Reese. And it's actually a children's book called Cave Dada, about a little boy and his dad. His dad's trying to get the little boy to go to sleep, and the little boy just wants him to read or tell him a story. And he did personalize it for my youngest baby. And so that was really cool. But I really love the art in this. I should show you some of the art and that lettering. Really cool. Shout out to Brandon Reese. We will have, Brandon's going to be on the show at some point. I also got a bunch of stickers. Oh, shout out to my man Jeff Carroll. I didn't get a book, but he did give me this flyer for his sci-fi documentary. I'll be checking out his stuff. But yeah, let's see. Brandon Reese did give me this Frog, Tad, and Dad. Or Frog. Fantastic Frog and Tad Lad sticker. That's cool. Focus. There we go. Shout out to Dave from West Coast Dave Ventures. He gave me a sticker. He also gave me another one with an expletive about ice. You can guess what that says. So yes, that was a bunch of indie stuff that I grabbed. And then I also have a bunch of mainstream books that I brought to get signed. So of course, the first one that I got signed was my Court of Owls. Oh, there's a flyer by Philip Fleming for the 332nd. But this is my Scott Snyder signed Court of Owls fan home volume. He had never seen one of these, and that was really cool to show the biggest Batman writer that there's a book that he's not seen. I think that's crazy. I'm kind of sad because in my mad dash to leave the house, I left a bunch of stuff behind. So my Absolute Catwomans did not get signed by Che Grayson because I left them at home. Nor did I get to be the first one. I wanted to be the first one with a signed copy of The Monster of Blackenstein, Sanford Green variant. But I left that at home. So that didn't get signed. I finally brought home a Heroes pamphlet, booklet. I always leave those. But yeah, so I stopped by Sanford Green's table, got a few things signed. This is my Spider-Man, Superman, George Perez homage cover. My Legend Has It, the hip-hop comic that Mass Appeal did with Marvel, signed by Sanford Green. I also got it signed inside by Justin Greenwood, who did about half of the art on this book, the better half of the art, in my opinion. And then, of course, I've got my Spider-Man, Superman variant cover. This was the Felix Comic Art exclusive that I got from Third Eye Comics online, and Sanford signed that as well with the pink paint pen. Say that 5 times fast. All right, more mainstream books I got signed. Of course, I had to go stop by Tony Fleece and Trish Forstner's tables. They were in separate spots this time around. Shout out to having different art reps. But my favorite cover of Feral so far is this one for issue 23. And I learned that this is the only cover that they've all three done art. Tony, Trish, and Tone Rodriguez all did different parts of this art. Of course, Trish did the cats. I think Tone did the sort of like astronaut looking safeguard radioactive suit wearing dude. And Tony did the hand, or this hand, because apparently he didn't like the way the hand looked at first. So really cool stuff there. Got that signed. And then I got my issue 19 signed. And I wanted to get issue 19 signed because that is the issue that has a pull quote by me. So maybe I should sign it too. But me, Tony, and Trish are all on that book. And then I also got the silent issue flip book featuring the return of the Stray Dogs, issue 21, signed. I had to get that signed because Trish told me last year that the Stray Dogs were coming back in the pages of Feral. I didn't know when it was going to happen, but I knew it was going to happen. And that's why I got caught up last year, Tony. And I'm so glad I did. I'm so glad I did. All right. Speaking of homies, I also had a mission. There was a few things I wanted to get signed that I figured I would be the first to get to have. And where's my stuff? I feel like I'm missing something. Oh, okay. Yes. One of those was Comics the Magazine issue 0. I got it signed by Rico Renzi. To my knowledge and to Rico's knowledge, I'm the only one that's ever gotten issue 0 of Comics the Magazine signed. I also got my issue 1 of Comics the Magazine signed. Rico ended up gifting me an issue 2 because I left my issue 2 at home by accident. So issue 2 is signed, as are issues 3. And I had 2 copies of issue 4. This is the regular one. And then this is the Vertigo variant featuring The End of Life by Kyle Starks, excuse me. And so Kyle also signed it. So all my Comics the Magazines have been signed. And that's really cool. And I'm the only one with a signed 0 issue. Somehow, I forgot to get Adam Freeman to sign my Comics magazines. But it's all good. We'll see each other again. All right. One more mainstream book. Got my DC Power signed by Greg Burnham, who did the Bloodwind story in this. Fun fact, Greg's going to hate that I'm telling this story. I don't care. I brought my book like this to Greg because I don't carry the dust jackets with me. And Greg had never seen what this book looked like under the dust jacket. He was like, "Where did you get that?" And I was like, this is It's just the regular cover. So that was fun. Shout out to Greg. And then, finally, lastly, brought my big Doom Treasury edition and got that signed by Sanford Green as well. Maybe next year I will pay Sanford for a sketch. I was running on a tight budget this year, but I'll bring that back and get a sketch. That book deserves a sketch. So yeah, a lot of mainstream books, a lot of indie books, but we're not done because I also brought a special pile of books to get signed by my favorite artist in comics, my man Dennis Cowan. And you know, I've seen Dennis a few times at this point, gotten a few really key items signed, my milestone number ones, posters and stuff like that. But besides books, I wanted to have like fun artifacts that maybe he doesn't see every day. So I got this. This is my issue, my copy of the Comics Journal issue 160, featuring interviews with all sorts of Black comic artists, including the entire team of founders of Milestone Media. Michael Davis, Dennis Cowan, Dwayne McDuffie, and Derek Dingle all have quotes in this issue. And yeah, proud moment was me giving or showing this to Dennis, and he's just flipping through it, reading the articles, pointing out different artists in it, like Ho Che Anderson, like the artist formerly known as David Sims. So that was really cool. Dennis is teaching me stuff about these people, and I was like, yo, amazing. Also brought 2 Wizard magazines that have Milestone Media features in them. So that was fun. Dennis signed that for me. That's issue 20 of Wizard. And then here's issue 38 of Wizard that Dennis signed. Also got my Black Panther #1, Batman Static Beyond #1, the Cowan cover. And then I brought a bunch of Dakota Incidents to sign. Now, my goal was to get the Dakota Incident signed by Dennis and Stephanie Williams. But Dennis kind of held my books hostage. Dennis is basically family at this point, which means I have to come behind, like, you know, the paying customers and the commissions and stuff like that. So I was happy to leave my stuff with Dennis, but that did kind of mess up my plan for double signatures. But it worked out in 2 instances. So this is my New History of the DC Universe, the Dakota Incident, first print, cover A, and it is double signed by Dennis Cowan in black. And Steph was like, hey, can I sign it in red? Somebody left a red marker over here. I was like, man, sign it however you want. So signed by Steph Williams in red. Then I got my Dan Mora second printing cover, also signed by Dennis and Stephanie Williams. So that was fun. But the Stephanie Williams show continues with my Carlo Pagulayan cover signed in gold. My Dennis Cowan cover. How do I not get Dennis to sign the Dennis cover? But Dennis Cowan cover signed by Stephanie Williams in silver. And I don't remember who did this cover. Was this Yasmin Putri? Who did the 52 homage cover? Signed by Steph in silver. And of course, the Sway cover. How did I not get Sway to sign the Sway cover? Sway was right behind Stephanie. Now I'm mad. This is what happens when you're on a mad dash. So I'm sure we'll see each other again, Sway. And also got my Threads of Destiny signed by Steph. And my Nubia Queen of the Amazons hardcover signed by Stephanie. I absolutely should have gotten this signed by Daryl Banks. He has art in this book as well. But that's what happens when you were on a mad dash. So my sort of lessons learned, key takeaways from this convention. There was a lot of really dope moments. A bunch of dope moments I didn't get on camera. Brian Stelfreeze. That man is a class act. He signed my Wakanda backpack, by the way. I don't have it with me. I'll show you a picture later. He signed my Wakanda backpack. But while I was waiting for him to sign it, I was watching him critique art by young creators. Not even people in the industry. These were just like attendees of the convention. And he's going page by page, line by line, talking about color theory, like really pouring into the next generation of artists. That was cool. In the same vein, Ryan Benjamin was doing a remark for somebody and explaining every brush stroke while he's doing this remark. and my microphone wasn't even on for that part of it. But that was really cool. Yeah. Oh, there was a little kid dressed like Tech Nine at Dennis Cowan's table. That was crazy to see. There's a lot of amazing moments. I feel like this video is getting way too long, but I mean, you're here because you want to see the goods, right? Two things I forgot to show you. Y'all know the rule in my office, right? All the heroes on my wall are black. I might be making an exception because this Rise poster by my man Ryan Best is just too good. And it's signed by Trevor Fernandez Linkevich and Ryan Best, who are the creative team behind that character. And one last item that I got. Shout out to my man Just Chad. But Just Chad does these custom short boxes. And so every year I've gotten milestone boxes from Chad. The last year I got a sort of a classic milestone box. Then we collaborated on a piece that he did for me. And then this year I went to buy his booth and he had a Dakota incident box. And I was like, oh, bet. So I got it signed by Dennis Cowan and Stephanie Williams. And yeah, I'll have to do a video about giving my Milestone Comics a new home here soon. But yeah, this was easily the biggest and best Heroes Con for me yet. Key takeaways. There's all 3 days are absolutely mandatory. I need to carry a notebook with my game plan on it because I forget things easily, like getting Sway or Daryl Banks to sign books. Like I need to carry my notes with me. I need to plan a day to chill because while I had a lot of fun, Heroes Con was a whole lot of running around and like work for me. And I think, quite honestly, that's because I try to cram so much into one convention a year. Perhaps the biggest takeaway is that Heroes can't be the only time I do a con every year. So we're going to have to run it back. I'm thinking maybe we run it back in Baltimore. Let me know if you're coming to Baltimore Comic Con and if I should join you. Let me know in the comments down below. I'll see you guys in another video soon. Until then, stay safe, stay awesome. Pat yourself on the back for making it all the way through this video. Maybe comment Baltimore if you made it to the end. And I'll see you in another video real soon. Stay safe, stay awesome, and read something dope today. Peace.